Hi, my name is Valkyrie, and for those of you who don't know, I've been on somewhat of a fat loss journey recently. For those of you who have listened to season 2 of my podcast, or just know me in general, know that I've gone through quite a few rough patches when it comes to food. I've gone back and forth between thinking I was too fat or too muscular, and I've kind of bounced between the two time and time again, and I've never really been happy with my weight or my body in general. In fact, a lot of high school is kind of a blur because of that. And the last few months have been no different. They've been a blur in a good way, but it's also been kind of drowned out by the fact that I don't really like how my body looks. I went into the summer thinking that I was going to be in the gym 5 times a week and see real results and get pumped, and I started to, and then I got sick. And after I got sick, I couldn't be in the gym for 2 whole months. I only recently started working out again, and I look at the videos of myself that I film in the gym, and I still don't really like my body that much. I appreciate what my body is doing for me. I appreciate that it's overcome sickness and is allowing me to push myself in the gym again. I'm thankful for that, and I will continue to be thankful to my body by fueling it properly, getting enough proper rest, and not overworking myself. I want to protect myself and continue to improve. But don't think it was all fun and games here. Let's hop into kind of my whole journey and start from the beginning. When I was in 8th grade, this girl that I was just becoming to be really good friends with told my then boyfriend that I was fat. I had never really thought about it before, and then he told me, and I suddenly became obsessed with this idea of my body doesn't look the way it's supposed to. I'd never really thought about it much before. I had asked my boyfriend and my friends, and all of them said, "No, you look great. I don't see any problem." And then I started looking in the mirror and saying, what is wrong with my body? Why were words like that just spewed with so much hatred? And of course, my boyfriend again didn't care that much at the time, but I was starting to a lot. I wanted to lose weight then, just change what I was eating altogether. I started incorporating a lot of greens in my diet, and I was still really skinny, but I felt like I needed to be healthier. I didn't have much weight to lose, and yet I felt like I had to. I had also mentioned that I wanted to lose weight to some of my family members, and instead of kind of comforting me and asking about where it's coming from or any insecurities that I might have, they just said, okay, you're going to have to do this, this, and this. I felt like it was right because the people around me were telling me that it was the right thing to do or telling me how to do the thing that I wanted to do. But what I needed at that point was people asking why I wanted to do those things, and I just didn't have that. From the minute I began to start eating healthier, a very toxic cycle of binging came into play. I had begun this journey basically right before my freshman year of high school, and when everyone in my house was eating in moderation, greens, meats, very balanced kind of diet, I was eating basically just salads, minimizing oils, and not really having any junk food. I was doing tons and tons of research on the best way to lose weight and the best way to exercise and all of these things. But while I was doing so, I was binging and watching Netflix until 3 a.m. and waking up feeling like shit. I'd hide the candy wrappers between my headboard and the mattress and hope that no one found them until a couple times they did, and I had to kind of rethink what I was doing. But at that point, it was a little bit too late. The next days after a binge, I would wake up and tell myself, okay, that's fine, you did that, let's just start again. And of course, the same thing would happen because I kept doing the same things that led me to that point in the first place. I started hating the idea of food, but also craving it to the point where I would just eat really healthy when I was around my family, and when they weren't looking, I would sneak candy and chips into my room and eat it kind of while I was doing homework or while I was procrastinating. I started coming home from school and having 2 big meals before dinner and a dessert. At this point, I wasn't doing any exercise either. I wasn't trying to bulk or burn off calories or anything. I just wanted to eat. Then it kind of spiraled into my obsessive eating / walking exercise cycles. During this time, I had started wearing baggier and baggier clothes because I just hated the way that my body looked. I felt like I needed to suck in my stomach the entire day to have any resemblance of abs. I started not being able to find any jeans that fit me, and for the women watching this that are heavier on the bottom and carry a lot of weight on their legs, that already wasn't a great search for me. Those mirrors were never flattering, and I found that every time I looked in them, I would always get a lot of food shame and guilt that kind of led back to binging cycles. All of that culminating together basically catapulted me into having a pretty severe eating disorder. I started walking for hours a day, at first to burn a ton of calories, but then kind of as a reflection tool. But it's clear that the weight loss was coming first. On these walks, I'd constantly map out what I wanted to do that week, wasn't working, and where I wanted to be in a month, in a year. I thought about going vegetarian and then vegan and then fasting for days on end, and yes, I actually did all of those things. When people brought up being vegetarian and why I switched, I would always say that it was for the environment, and I stay vegetarian now because I do believe that that's a pretty toxic industry, but when I originally went vegetarian, it was purely for weight loss purposes. I don't think I'll ever go back to eating meat, but at that point it was because I wanted to eliminate all of the greasy taco kind of food that my family would bring home on the weekends or on a school night or anything. Now, fasting was a pretty insane part of my journey, but this is the part of the video where I tell you to not copy what I did. It was pretty awful, wrecked my metabolism, wrecked my body for about a year after, so definitely don't do that. It was basically a whirlwind of disaster after disaster. I originally started learning about it after I watched this video entitled something like How I Lost 100 Pounds with Alternate Day Fasting, and it was this woman talking about how fasting one day and then eating the next worked really well for her, and she lost a lot of weight, and she was running marathons now, and she felt great. Then I started doing research on whether or not it was safe or not, and I concluded that it was safe. Maybe not for me, but technically it was safe. And for days on end, I would plan not to eat. I would start on Monday, and a couple days in, I would break my fast, but I wouldn't break it in the way that you're supposed to. I would binge it all back. It was a toxic cycle that fucked my metabolism up so bad that I had to kind of reverse diet for the last year and get back to eating a normal amount of food for a consistent period of time. I was actually fasting all the way up until last year, and it's pretty crazy looking back on it. I would continue to starve myself while killing myself in the gym and trying to burn every extra calorie, and it just made me really unhappy, really unproductive, and just hate everything. Now, along with the fasting, I started to do a lot of home workouts. These were actually a really positive thing for me, and these are the things that I would actually recommend people do. I started watching a YouTuber named Linda Sun. You can check her out in the description because she's a really cool YouTuber that focuses on food and health and well-being and exercise and all these great things. But she was talking about her disordered eating when I was going through all of my struggles, and she recommended workouts from this woman named Lily Sabri. She's another fabulous channel that I continue to do workouts from to this day, so I'll also link her channel in the description. She's a fitness influencer that does a lot of like HIIT workouts, lower body, upper body, abs, all of that stuff. Kind of like if you guys know who Chloe Ting is, similar vibe. Trust me, when I tell you these workouts really work. The first one I ever did was a HIIT workout from her, and it absolutely murdered me. Like, I can tell you I was on the ground almost in tears, but it was so good, and I loved it. I would continue to do pretty much exclusively Linda's workouts for the next year. I was barely skipping a day, usually doing 1 to 3 videos a day, and started to get way stronger, way better, just cardiovascular health, and it was really fun. I was feeling really good, but I still had that kind of like binging cycle going on, and I still really hated the way that my body looked. I felt progress wasn't coming fast enough. I don't think I ever truly felt proud of myself during this period, even though these workouts were so difficult, and I should have been fueling my body and thanking my body for the work that it was allowing me to do. This all sucked because I love working out, and especially during this period where I didn't have anyone telling me what to do, and I was online school, I wish I would have had a little bit more self-confidence. But I will say Lily Sabri is the first person to ever make me consistently like working out. So when I went to the gym, it kind of all changed from there, and I was able to keep it up and be consistent. And the first time I ever worked with a personal trainer, they were like, wow, you've never been in the gym before. You're pretty strong, your form is good. It's all because of Lily Sabri, thank you. A year ago, my friend told me that she was starting to go to this gym that was 15 minutes away from my house. I thought about it and was a little bit hesitant at first because I had tried the gym before this, and I was not able to keep it up, and I hated it because I was just basically running the entire time and didn't want to touch weights because I was scared. I eventually agreed, and at that point I was really, really excited. I had gotten my parents to get me a personal trainer and was starting to work out 4 to 5 times a week really consistently and just loved it. My personal trainer just constantly reminded me how strong I was. Shout out Russell. I remember the first time I leg pressed 654 pounds for almost 10 reps, and he was like, damn, I didn't know you were that strong. And from that point on, it kind of inspired me to go heavier and push myself more, and I will be eternally grateful for him always. And remember, from all the home workouts I had been doing, I had really developed a pretty strong core, a good sense of what was good form and what felt good, and I was kind of just starting from a really good place in the gym. I was working out really consistently, eating relatively healthy, and went through this phase of counting my calories, but I still wasn't seeing the results I wanted. The only thing I wasn't doing was cardio, and so I decided to run a marathon. Over the summer of 2021, my friend Amanda and I hiked Mount Charleston, which is one of the highest peaks in Nevada, and is a combined total of around 20 to 22 miles. Afterwards, I was dying, but it was probably one of the first times that I had really felt proud of a physical feat that I had achieved. I was still looking for weight loss at this point, and when the weight didn't really come off after the hike like I thought it did, I was really disappointed, but also super proud of my body after. I started thinking to myself, what's the next biggest endurance feat that I could possibly tackle? A marathon. Yeah, just hopped into it also. I said 20 miles, 26.2, running, hiking. I can do a marathon. Leave it to me to find the hardest freaking thing to train for in the Vegas heat. So I started training 3 months in advance without any real running experience at all. I have to say, a lot of it sucked, right? I would do weight training in the morning and run in the afternoons and had like a double schedule going, and it was hard. I will say it was hard. I was probably exercising and burning the most calories that I had ever really burned in my entire life, and I was loving a lot of it, honestly. The only problem was I was back to not eating again, but it was less about weight loss and more about the fact that I just felt like I physically could not. Intense cardio made me extremely nauseous, and I was pushing myself so hard that I would come home and just not want to eat. And so my body, which needed a lot more energy than I was giving it, was just holding on to the rest of the fat in my body and not letting anything go. My body got so inflamed that it just got really good at holding on to extra fat, and I ran my marathon basically at the same weight as when I started training. I ran my marathon last November, and it was probably one of the hardest things that I've ever done. I signed up for one not knowing that it was a trail run, which I probably should have checked the fine print on that, and it was November, but it was still hot as hell in Vegas. Nevertheless, I finished it, and the next day I was still unhappy to find that I had not lost any weight. I would continue in the gym going through weird diet cycles and feeling almost borderline depressed that I was not losing any weight after going at it for years. That is, until I moved to New York. I turned 18 and immediately moved out the next day. Drastic change, I know, but it kind of just worked out that way. If you want to know more about my reflections at that point, I'll link a video down below that you can watch. It's a really nice video, and I'm pretty proud of the reflections that I had gone through during that period. I moved into a co-living house with a ton of other founders and people in tech, and had my own money, was living on my own dime, and now had the ability to just buy food, but on my budget, and control what I was eating fully. And then, to my surprise, it kind of just all balanced out. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the fact that I was in a new place and wanted to try a bunch of new things with new people, or the fact that I wanted to budget wisely and get the most bang for my buck so I wasn't just buying unnecessary food. But either way, I was slowly healing my relationship with food. I would eat out with friends because I wanted to hang out with them, not try to hang out with friends because I wanted to eat at their house or I wanted to hang out in a place where I could eat without question. All of a sudden, I was eating pretty regularly, waking up, wanting to go to the gym all the time, having a lot more energy, all of the above. And suddenly, I wasn't worrying about food all the time. I was putting my life first. That continued while I was in Canada. I went with my friend Jessie to live on her college campus in Kingston and was working out a lot. I've been doing research on how to gain muscle and decided that in every meal I wanted to have a good source of protein, and I started loading on the protein. I made protein pancakes every day. I had protein smoothies. I had Greek yogurt. I had possibly every source of protein you can ever have as a vegetarian. And at that point, I had also started incorporating a little bit of salmon to get some omega-3s and a little bit more protein packed. Also, can someone tell me how to make protein smoothies taste good? I don't know what it is with the protein powder that I always buy, but it just tastes like vomit. So like, someone please help me, please. And I was eating protein for my health and my physique and not worrying about the calories as much. I was honestly probably stuffing myself more in that year with protein than I had ever done before, but at least this time it was for a pretty legitimate healthy reason. I left Kingston, went to New York for a week, and then went to Europe for the first time. And that's when I was truly aware of how much food freedom I had actually got. I was in Amsterdam eating delicious food. I would be walking around in Paris with a croissant and a little carton of strawberries and some jam and honey, and I was enjoying all of these dinners and wine with all of these different people, and I wasn't thinking about it. I was having meals at restaurants that haven't satisfied me this much in such a long time. When I went back home, I wasn't really worried about my eating habits because of some family troubles that were kind of preoccupying my mind. And the whole time I've been traveling around, I haven't really been that concerned. And then this summer, it started to hit me again. What if I'm gaining weight? I don't like how my body looks. Maybe I should just starve myself again for a little bit and see the muscle that I've been building all this time. What I'm reflecting on now is that when I was traveling and kind of moving different places every 6 weeks, I was committing to working out during those times, but I was traveling, and nothing was really that consistent for more than a month and a half. I was not letting my body A, sleep, B, properly recover, C, properly train on a consistent 5 to 6 month basis, or D, fueling myself with enough protein throughout that whole time. Of course, I wasn't going to see a lot of progress. I say that and still know that I've made a ton of leaps in my fitness journey. I can see muscles in my back, and my upper abs are coming in again, and I'm just proud because that's the way that I want to look. I also want to say that for the people watching this that may think that I'm trying to say that one body is better than the other, or that you should all strive to be in the body that I want to be in, that's wrong. I want abs because I like how abs look on my body. I want a butt because I like how bigger butts look. I have an aesthetic goal in mind, and I have no preference or opinion on anyone else and how they want to live their life, and how they want their body to look. Being a certain size doesn't make you a bad person or dictate anything that happens in your life. It's sad that we even have to say that at this point, but my physique goals are just what I'm aiming for because I like them. There was a point where I was starving myself and I wasn't healthy. There was also a point where I was binging, and that also wasn't healthy. Both of those weren't healthy for both my body and my mindset and got me to a really unhealthy place both mentally and physically. I'm slowly getting to the point where food doesn't scare me anymore. I can have ramen and make a full breakfast, lunch, dinner with my boyfriend and not be scared. The only changes that I think have been really consistent with my meals are that I try and get a really good source of protein and whole foods in every single one. I want to feel full and satisfied, but the point of all of it is I want to be happy. I'm happy with where my food freedom is at. I'm happy with my extensive knowledge of food and the research on fasting and all of that stuff. I'm happy with how far I've come and how far I will continue to go to be satisfied. A couple new fitness goals for me. I'm excited to start consistently running on a regular basis. I've started with just 2 days a week, and then I'm going to be scaling it up ever so slightly and trying to get just a better cardiovascular health again. And I'm just happy that I get to start using food to live, not to punish myself or feel guilty. I hope sharing this story gives you someone else to talk to and answer your questions if you're also struggling with a similar thing or have any doubts about food or food freedom or anything like that. I'd love to answer any questions, so if you'd like, leave a comment down below. I'll be happy to sneak on by and give you a response. Thank you so much for watching this video. I've been wanting to do a kind of like all-encompassing video on my journey with my body, and maybe I'll make a follow-up as I start consistently running. And I want to be documenting a little bit of other journeys along with fitness and food for you guys, but this is a pretty good place to start in my opinion. I'm excited to put them together for you guys, and with that being said, I am Little Bird, signing off.